Hello and welcome to this edition of the Player Spotlight. I'm Tyler Rowland, and with me from Watagua High School, I'm pleased to have Kate Sears, who will be going to Virginia Tech, and her coach, Bill Torgerson. And good to see both of them here. And first off, we'll start with you, Kate. You had a Final Four run last season and are putting up some big-time numbers this year. And talk about just your mentality coming into your senior year compared to your prior years. Any major changes in that this year?
We have a different group, so just kind of trying to grow each game. I think we're pretty inexperienced with people who've played a lot of minutes on varsity, so just growing each game and just trying to build on what we've done the last 3 years.
And Coach, for you, what's it been like, this process, coaching Kate and this team and getting them to where they are today?
Yeah, well, first off, it's just an honor and a pleasure to work with her. I like to say that she's the best player to coach, and that means that she's the loudest kid in practice. She's going hard on every rep. And sometimes you get the most talented player who's looking to take reps off and not much of a leader. So I really appreciate all that about her. And I think the team's ceiling is higher because of how hard she's willing to work. And then just coaching a player like Kate, it's been kind of a lesson in special defenses. For example, today Kate was trapped every single time she touched it, and they're denying her everywhere off the court. So on your 20-some years of coaching basketball, that's not that you can go whole seasons and not see stuff like that. So it's just kind of an education for all of us in what's the best way to attack all these special defenses that teams throw at Kate.
Kate, for you, what would you say to this point, having made it as far as you have? What would you say has been your biggest obstacle?
I think being from a small town is a little challenging just because we don't have as much exposure and just not as much competition close to us. So, we have to travel, 3 hours to Raleigh to get good games and to Charlotte and stuff like that. So that's definitely hard just because it takes a lot of time and effort. But thankfully we have good coaches and a support system that allows us to do that.
And Coach, for you, what would be one of your favorite memories with this group in particular that and it wouldn't have to be necessarily basketball, maybe a travel trip that the team had or something of that nature? What's something that comes to mind when I mention that?
And the first two things that came to mind were we went to Maryland one time. It's funny how the sort of obstacles, difficult times actually translate into a funny memory. So we drove a bus, 7-9 hours to Maryland to play in a showcase kind of summer thing, and then we were at the Cherokee Casino and kind of felt holed up for 4 days. And so this being in the vans and kids laughing and maybe there's some lights are on in the back and music and everybody's singing. So it's stuff like that kind of jumps out as the first thing. One of the goals is just to create a positive environment where the kids can grow. So we try to laugh every day. We get good cardio, we get touches, we give each other high fives, we root for each other. So that's sort of the stuff that jumps to my mind.
When you signed that ink to go to Virginia Tech, considering this fact, only about 7% of students make it to, or student athletes make it to college, and that's any level. And now you're getting to go to a Power 4 conference. When you realize that this is happening, what was it that was going through your mind?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Again, just being from a small town is really just cool to be able to have that opportunity. It's definitely been a lot of hard work throughout the years, and it wouldn't have been possible without good coaches and a good family that's helped me, take me to travel tournaments and given me the opportunity to be on platforms to show my abilities. But it's been really cool, and I'm really excited.
And Coach Torgerson, your philosophy, I really like how your teams show up and they move the ball around very well. They're disciplined. They shoot the three ball a lot and shoot it well. Talk about your approach, and you keep your team. I notice they come out and they're calm even in the most tense of situations sometimes. And yeah, and how is it you're able to get that out of them?
So this is my second year as the head coach, no real huge aspirations to be the head coach. I really enjoyed being the assistant coach and letting our former head coach, Laura Berry, she could decide who goes in the game, and people are upset about stuff, they could talk to Coach Berry. But she had an opportunity at Davidson where she is now, and I just felt like I was the person who could sort of keep us going in the direction that we were going with the values that we had. And she gave me this book about the All Blacks. That's a rugby team in New Zealand, and buried within that is this phrase, being a bluehead. So it's about being calm under pressure, and so you don't worry about what just happened, whether that's last week, the last game, or the last play. You don't worry about the consequences. Oh no, are we going to lose? If we lose this important conference game, it's going to mean you just live in the moment and play. So the kids exemplify that, and as a coach, I can preach things like share the ball, and I can think of activities in practice to help us share the ball, but the kids have to buy into that. So I've been plenty of places where I've preached the same values, but you just don't see it on the floor. So it's a special group of kids who accept coaching and who root for each other and care about each other. So that's been a pleasure to be at Watauga with that group.
Kate, for you, as a leader, what do you feel like has made you effective on the court? Because I see a lot of verbal communication coming from you.
Yeah, I think as I've gotten older, the verbal part has kind of grown. I'm not a huge, that's just not takes me out of my comfort zone to do stuff like that. So I've definitely grown in that aspect. I think a lot of it just trying to lead by example, just trying to be the first one in the gym, the last one to leave, just trying to, always push my teammates in practice, kind of like not taking any reps off, and just trying to make use out of every drill and just to get better every day. I think a lot of that is, my main kind of leadership style, but definitely have grown in the aspect of just communicating on and off the court.
I got to try to practice what I preach and live in the moment, but it makes me sad to hear Kate talk about that and know we've got 2 months of that. Just it's something super special. She says it's not her forte, but she's, probably the loudest, best communicator I've ever coached. So it's really a big part of her game for sure.
Kate, to get to know you a little bit better, what's something maybe, well, you're quite busy, but when you do get a few minutes on the side, what hobbies or so what would be something that you have that you like to do?
Yeah, I used to play a lot of soccer, so that was a big hobby of mine until about the last year, just because, basketball and stuff takes up a lot of time. But that was a big part of my life. And then also just hanging out with friends and family, just being from a small town, just really enjoy, just having quality time with them.
Yeah, I have a saying, and that goes, it's fun to make stuff. So you're making something right here with this video. And you've mentioned before that you've listened to the podcast once in a while. So at one point I thought I was shifting away from basketball. I went to graduate school. I was really focused on writing books and started doing films and so forth. And then I had 2 little girls that, at one moment they're asking to coach the second graders at the Y, and then 10 years go by and you're the high school head coach. So, I kind of say my kids brought me back into the game.
Wow, that is a neat story. And Kate, for you, what's a cool fact about yourself, something that maybe not a lot of people know?
I can solve a Rubik's Cube. That's probably my fun fact. I don't know. When I was younger, I really wanted to learn how to do it, and I did, and I can still do it. So, yeah.
That's a good one. And Coach, also, before we get into the fun fact on you, talk about your girls, because I know they both, the podcast, that is a cool fact. And talk about your girls, because I know, of course, Izzy plays for you, and I know you've had they've had some success on the basketball court and off.
Yeah, I think maybe my fun fact would be that my dad was a coach. My dad was an athletic director. And I'm bringing that up now just because when Coach Berry left, my kids and my wife were the first people I went to, and I was like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to be the coach's wife, and it's certainly not the easiest thing in the world to be the coach's kids. So I kind of look to them for their blessings. My older daughter Charlotte is a freshman at Division III Christopher Newport. They have a game probably wrapping up right now. Broke her finger in the fall, so she's been sidelined a little bit. And then Izzy. So they were both on board. I think they were kind of saying yes to something that they didn't really know what they were getting into. But so there's been some difficult moments, but like we were talking about earlier, it's like getting through things. There were days when I thought, oh, this kid is going to be mad at me, is going to remember this when they're 30. Still remembering this moment they're mad at me. But we've gotten through those, and we're in a good place right now, so it's been good and worth it.
Well, and we'll look into the camera for this last one here. Any shout-outs you'd like to give?
I just think the county of the Watauga County and just the community, especially the last 3 years and last year, just the support we felt as a program has been really cool and has definitely helped us be successful.
That was a really good one. Just there's so many people behind the scenes, like Dustin Curley, who's the athletic director, and then going up to the superintendent, and all those people create all these opportunities for us. And then I think the girls sort of inspire the community, and the community kind of inspires the girls, and so they kind of feed off each other. I'll shout out Megan Torgerson, my wife, who, for example, filmed the game today, who does things like order the food for the party. So she kids me that I'm working 2 full-time jobs. I also teach at App State, and she's kind of working a second job in all the support stuff she does for the girls. So shout out to my wife, Megan.
It's pretty cool. And Coach, tell about your podcast. When can we catch that? Yeah.
So, in the period when I wasn't a basketball coach, I won a screenwriting contest, and then that led to me becoming the director of creative writing for the Rhode Island International Film Fest, and it was kind of an excuse to get to talk to people I wanted to talk to who wouldn't otherwise talk to us. Like if you were like, Kate, you and Coach Torg want to go out for a cup of coffee after the game, we might have been like, we probably can't. But you got a camera, you got a microphone, and so we're like, sure. So anyway, I would interview screenwriters, and I would interview assistant coaches that I wanted to talk to. I also have that kind of guiding principle. It's fun to make stuff. So it's just sort of like, and then now it's kind of turned into like, a lot of times it's with my sister who lives in LA, who I would probably talk to 3 times a year if we didn't do a podcast most weekends. So it's sort of forces me to disengage from basketball for 2 or 3 hours a week. And I'm sure sometimes people are like, the stats aren't out, why does he have a podcast? But I think I need a like 2 or 3 hour break once in a while. So it's just kind of fun to make stuff. That's something I do with my sister. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, and what's this called?
It's called the Torg Stories Podcast. So I'm a Torg. Bill Torgerson gives us an excuse to tell the stories that we want and invite others to tell their stories as well.
Nice. Be sure to check that out, the Torg Stories Podcast. I listened to a couple episodes this summer that were posted, and it was really good. So be sure to check that out. We want to say thank you all so much for tuning in and watching this episode of the Player Spotlight. Be sure to keep up with Watauga. They're a team that does extremely well with ball movement and discipline, and no doubt about it will once again be a contender for state and North Carolina. We'll say God bless you, and we will see you soon.